All right. Good day. Happy Thursday to everyone on October 16th. Technically, 2 weeks and one day away from the holiday that we're all going to be talking about today, and that is Halloween. So, we're going to go through some different topics of what Halloween was like, growing up in the 80s. I think a majority of your trick or treating years, people that were born probably 76 to 80 in those years, probably had a majority of their trick or treating years in the 80s. I was born in 78. Rich was born in 78. So, yeah, we're just going to talk about just kind of how Halloween back then was versus Halloween today, what we loved about it. So, Rich, go ahead and kick us off with some of the stuff we're going to be diving into today.
Yeah. So before we jump into our topics, I just did want to say that Halloween was quite a bit more wholesome when we were kids. It's just different now. I don't want to say it's more commercialized, but it definitely it was a very family friendly holiday where the things you did, like your parents were involved. A lot of the trick or treating was family members and, stuff publicly that people that you were well acquainted with. So I think it was a little more family oriented than probably it is today. But the first thing I wanted to talk about, and I think Brian and I had a little bit different experience in this when we were kids, but Halloween at school was my second favorite school time of the year, right behind Christmas. I mean, Christmas was better because you got a longer break and you got presents, but the party and the way Unionville Elementary celebrated Halloween was pretty epic. We did a parade so if I'm in third grade, their third graders had a time slot where you would go trick or treat every classroom. And so you'd walk in and walk around the sixth grade classroom. You'd get, the sixth grade teacher, Miss Allison, she'd have a candy and you would trick or treat there. So kind of the pageantry that went with Halloween at Unionville anyway was pretty great. Like if you had a bad costume, that was going to, that was going to carry over. And so Halloween, just in general at school, they made a big deal of it. Big class party, lots of candy, lots of food, and then pretty much no schooling all day. So, it was a great time. And I always remember looking forward to the school part just as much as the trick or treat part.
Yeah. I mean, in Sullivan, the Halloween parties, I remember those very, very young, but I don't even know if we had those in third grade. When I was in third grade, maybe they were just like kindergarten first, maybe even second. I don't, I know that it was not like a school wide event. I don't remember a lot of people dressing up in school, but one thing it made me thought about was I know you and I both watch Stranger Things, and the episode where the kids dressed up as Ghostbusters and they were all excited and they showed up and they were the only kids in the school, that had dressed up. It's like that dress up time had passed, but they didn't want to give it up. And when they showed up and they were the only ones in it, they obviously felt juvenile, I'm guessing, and embarrassed. But we still had, we had fun. We did, I'm sure there were like coloring or drawings or things like that, stuff hung up in the classroom and stuff like that. We did not have an all day event at least that I remember. Maybe some of my Sullivan classmates can chime in on this and say, yes, we did, but somehow I just don't remember it.
Yeah, we even did like the bobbing for apples and a lot of the kind of outdoor Halloween stuff, maybe a little carnival or something. So it was a big event.
Yeah.
But what about, so costumes again were probably, I would say besides the candy, the costumes were the big deal around around Halloween, not Hollywood.
Well, kind of Hollywood
What,
too, I
what
guess.
was your, yeah, I guess the same thing. Yeah. It was superheroes, it was Star Wars, basic horror flick guys like Freddy or Jason. I mean, do you remember a lot of, what do you remember around
Yeah. Yeah.
costumes?
So I remember I was going through this over the past few days, and honestly, I should have asked my mom because she probably still has pictures of like, every one of them somewhere. I remember dressing up as a Dallas Cowboy player one time. And I'm not a Cowboy fan, but my dad growing up in the 70s, he liked the Cowboys and he couldn't stand the Steelers. So that was kind of my first taste of, what football team am I supposed to root for, which later on he was not a Cowboys fan either, but at least at that time. So I remember dressing up I had a Danny White jersey, one of those from like, probably they sold out like the Sears catalog or, service merchandise, something like that. But had the helmet and like the silver pants. I remember that. I remember, and I'm sure almost every kid our age at one point when you just want to have an easy costume, you got your 2.99 plastic hockey mask and your little fake knife. Hopefully it was fake. Fake knife, and you put the paint on it, looked like there's blood on the end, and you just wore like a flannel shirt or something, to be Jason. I'm almost positive I dressed up as like a cowboy one time. Dukes of Hazard, I did that one time. I do remember that, but I was trying to think of some other ones, and I really had a hard time thinking of all the ones because I probably went. I mean, what do you start when you start trick or treating and actually remember it? 4 or 5 years old, maybe.
Probably,
So
yeah, 5
I
years
probably
old.
went from like 5 years old to maybe 11 or 12. Probably not 12, probably 11, I would say. So I probably had 6 or 7 different years that I went. The costumes I see now that come up to the door, I mean, they're just everybody's the same, it seems like. It's like everybody just gets on Amazon and types in, you know, popular Halloween costume, and you see the same stuff over and over and over, which maybe it was that case with us too. I feel like you had to be a little more
Probably.
original back in our days because we didn't have the internet, obviously, and we didn't have the overnight delivery from Amazon and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we were a very store-bought, off-the-rack costume kind of family. My mom and dad worked a ton, and I was totally fine with getting, I remember having Darth Vader mask with the black cape thing that was just made out of plastic, and you just kind of walked through the neighborhood, and you were just, that cheap plastic stuff was rubbing together. I think I was Spider-Man one year. I do remember in 5th grade, which was the last year that I officially like wore a costume. I bought the full head mask with the like flashing battery powered lights, and I did not enjoy that experience. It was hot,
You mean
and you were
as Darth
kind of
Vader?
rebreathing. No, I was just an alien, like a
Okay,
green weird alien with red lights, and
like the
then
glowing
like
mask.
big, yeah. And I did not enjoy it at all. I enjoyed like the response to it because it was a newish kind of thing. Like we went from plastic mask with a rubber band around the back and a little like it came with a cape or smock or whatever. So the new mask was a huge upgrade, but it wasn't enjoyable to wear at all.
Yeah,
Now I think Halloween costumes are more like user friendly, Pinterest based, and yeah, you're getting a very like mass produced costume or whatever. These were new, and I don't think they fully like researched how horrible they were going to be to wear. Like I don't really see any. I to this day I don't think I've seen a mask like that again because it was real. It was a pain in the behind, but it was cool to look at.
right. Um, well, one thing we did also, I don't know if I told you this, but in Sullivan, Indiana, we have 2 trick or treat nights. So I think it kind of plays into the whole, giving and receiving type thing, leading into the Christmas season, but which I always enjoyed too, because like you just picked either the 30th or the 31st. I'm going to go out trick or treating one night, and the other night I'm going to stay at home and pass out the candy, interact with the people coming to the door. And actually, as an adult, like that part's fun still to this day, people coming to your door technically 2 nights. So that's always fun. You have the
Yeah, I
people that
think
show up with a
that's a,
go ahead.
yeah, that's a great idea. Sullivan's idea for two trick or treat nights is great. I think
Yeah, we need to
yeah,
get
I would
Trump
have
to
definitely enjoyed
Trump needs to make that a mandate throughout the country.
like a double Halloween.
Double Halloween. Yeah, so
Yeah, I
that
think that's
that
a
that
great
was always
thing.
that was always fun, but you guys don't do that.
No, we didn't have 2 trick or treat nights. What we did, or just me and a couple of my buddies, is we would usually buy 2 or 3 costumes. And we would do costume quick changes like we were on Broadway, trick or treat the whole neighborhood. We just had 2 streets that went around, Netha Court and Ut Drive, and we would do the whole half circle, come back, change out of Darth Vader into Spider-Man, do the whole thing again. Trick or treating was always, we always got triple the candy. We just stayed away from Betty, the lady that lives across the street from me, who gave out apples. So
Well, I don't think we can talk about trick or treating without differentiating the people that give out the little bite size versus the ones that give like the full size candy bars. Like when you got a full size payday or something, like you literally like you walked with your head high. Like this was a big deal. And most people, because we would give those out sometimes, the full size, being as adults now. But I think we would do it just because like we knew that that's not normal. So we may sprinkle
yeah,
in,
right.
maybe we buy 2 cases or boxes or whatever. Maybe you give away 2 dozen of them, and then you go to the regular size. But you know that the people that got those were like, man, these guys are awesome. Like this house is
It's
incredible.
the best house.
Yeah. Or like, someone goes
Yeah,
there at 7 and then someone goes there at 7:30 and they're like, what? I just got a little thing of and you got a, you got a king size Milky Way. This isn't fair.
Yeah, we always marked the houses that gave the best candy. So I was looking for Reese cups right off the bat. And I think after costumes, candy was the most important part of the holiday. Reese cups were I would trade. Well, you mentioned payday. Like I hate payday. But I would trade that for a Reese cup in a heartbeat. I was trying to think of like unique or interesting things you got. So we always had a lady that gave toothbrushes, which I mean, actually it's probably practical and I'm sure I used those, but it's not what you wanted to see as like a third grader. I think my favorite non like candy bar or chocolate was Nerds. Like I loved the small single packs of Nerds and then anything gummy related. I don't know if you remember these, but and they probably still make them. But Gummy used to make the little Coke bottle things, like kind of tasted different as you went down
I thought they were
the
like
Coke bottle.
wax looking. Was it gummy? I always
Well,
thought
they
of
had
that
the
as wax.
so no, there was. You're right. There was a wax one of those also
Oh, okay.
that had liquid inside it,
Yeah.
so you
And
would bite the top off and
it was probably terrible, like, if you just had, like, a cup of it, a cup this size and you had to drink it all, it's probably really bad, but just, like, that contrast of, like, going into wax or what other material the gummy is, and then you got, like, a little surprise, it was probably pretty cool back then.
yeah,
One that I remember
I loved it.
yeah, one that I remember, and I think some of it was left over from, probably from baseball season from a lot of people, or maybe the people in charge of concession stands around town, but, like, Fun Dip seemed like that was, like, a summertime candy that I remember, and every now and then you would get those. Remember it come in, like, it was like a trifold, like, it was, like and, like, they were, like, perforated with, like it had, like, the little chalk stick and the powder, chalk stick powder,
Oh yeah,
but they were usually 3 different flavors.
yeah.
So that was always exciting getting those because I just didn't see a lot of those outside of, being, like, in Little League. I don't remember seeing those. You mentioned Payday or I mentioned Payday. Payday was a big deal to me. I liked Reese's, but it seemed like when you get Reese's, like, it was always like a small piece. It wasn't always
Yeah,
like the
right.
normal size. That wasn't always, preferable. The ones I couldn't stand, I do not like the coconut, so, getting like an Almond Joy was frustrating.
Hey, amen, brother. Hated almond joy.
The little, like, people that buy, like, the real cheap stuff, like a dollar store or something, they got the big bag and it had like it was like almost like the knockoff Tootsie Rolls are like green and purple and butterscotch, and then you have like just like the basic peppermint discs, and you get like a
Yeah,
handful
those
of
people
those.
were
And
not trying.
no, they weren't.
Yeah,
They
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 weren't
forgot it was
trying.
Halloween, and on their way home, they started seeing people like, "Crap, I forgot to get candy." So, yeah, you were usually disappointed when you got those. Every now and then, we would have people, put Easter eggs with, like, maybe, like, 4 quarters in there, and, that was kinda cool as a
Okay.
8-year-old getting a buck, from somebody. You get 5 or 6 of those, and you feel pretty good the next day that you got $5.
Yeah, you could buy a He-Man with that if you got 6 of them. I think a He-Man was like 5.66.
Yeah, and GI Joes were, like, $3, like, 2.98, which we'll get
Yeah,
to that in another episode at some point, talk about toys.
another episode, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, sure.
My favorite non-candy thing to get was the fake lips and teeth with the vampire teeth in them,
Yeah, I
and
remember those.
you could chew them up. I mean, they were some sort of but you weren't supposed to eat them. They were wax or whatever, but
I feel like it was a
they were
pretty
still
hard
fun to
plastic
have.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there
no,
was
I
a plastic one, but there was a wax one you could chew up, but you weren't I don't think you were supposed to. That was probably just something weird that I did.
yeah, that
But I
can't
did
be good
like
for you.
the no, I didn't eat them ever though, for sure.
Yeah.
I think there were do you know Sour Patch Kids came out in 1985? That was their release year.
I don't. I mean, I know they obviously they still make those and they're popular. I don't remember those. I remember, you remember Warheads? They were
Yes.
sour, like little sour
Yes.
gumballs. Oh, which remember the
War
Fireballs? I
was
never liked those. I
Yeah,
never
so
liked
that's what I was
those
just getting ready
when
to
I
say.
would get
Warheads were
those.
sour, balls were hot. I didn't like either one.
Yeah.
And to this day, I've never eaten a Sour Patch Kid ever.
If I have, it's been just because my wife or kids had one of them. I know my wife, I usually put those in her stocking still to this day. But yeah, I'm not a big chewy type, like gummy. I don't like that kind of stuff. Gummy worms back in the day, I liked. I don't remember getting a
Yeah,
lot of
I
those
like it.
in my Halloween bag.
I don't think they had a lot of single serving gummy things.
Right. It's just like
So
the
you
big
were primarily
plastic
getting
bag.
fun sized candy bars, fun sized nerds. Got a lot of pixie sticks, which there's some validity to getting a pixie stick. And couldn't have too many. I mean, they were so sweet. that 1 or 2 is probably all you could process at one time, and there was also those long tubes of sixlets. You would get those.
Those were good.
Yeah, so it was all about what candy companies could manufacture small enough to be marketable for Halloween, and so gummies just didn't fit that mold.
Right. Well, for this last segment, let's go into what most of us remember as kids, especially in the 80s, is the movies. You know, the franchises that were big, and some of these started in the 70s. I know that, but they ruled an entire decade for the most part. Nightmare on Elm Street, I think, came out in 84, maybe. I think the first Friday the 13th was like 78, 79, something like that. Halloween was around the same time. Now,
Yeah,
The Exorcist
77
wasn't
maybe
really
for
a
Halloween.
franchise type thing, but I think it came out like 77, 78. What was your go-to? Like, let's say, well, when I say go-to, I mean like you're like, okay, I'm not, there's no chance I'm watching this movie right now. Just get it away from me.
I think Halloween was for me the scariest of the group because 2 things. Michael Myers didn't talk, so there was like his personality was really ambiguous, so you could fantasize like the worst. Like Freddy talked, and so you kind of knew, and he was a little funnier, where Michael Myers was just clearly thinking these like horrible, horrible things all the time. And you could run away from him, and then somehow he would be still right there, but he's just walking at a regular speed. So those 2 things bothered me a lot. But of all the movies, one that you didn't mention, the one that was the worst for me, and it was late 80s, early 90s, was Child's Play with Chucky. I was tall. My feet were kind of right at the edge of the bed. I always pictured like if something would ever reach up and touch my foot, I would have just lost my mind as like a 11-year-old because if Jason came through the door, I could see him and react. But if Chucky like came in, he would be below my eye line. So for some, like that really, really affected me as a 10, 11, 12-year old, however old it was. Yeah. So Child's Play was the worst for me, but of the big ones, Halloween was definitely the worst.
So first off, I'll go off what you just said with Chucky. They, that one, I don't know, that one didn't bother me. I just kept picturing like, okay, in real life, and it's funny that I'm saying real life because obviously it's not real life. At least I hope it's not for your sake. But like, it's like, can't I just like pick him up by his long red hair and just like throw him into a wall or something? Like he didn't run fast, did he? I don't picture him running fast. I somewhat remember the movies. I feel like he would just kind
Yeah.
of
He
hide.
ran. Yeah, he ran in the movies, but you're right. Like you could have literally just drop kicked him into
You
next
would think so.
Tuesday. You should not be able to be overpowered by an 18-inch tall doll.
Right.
And so it shouldn't have been scary at all. But it was yeah, he would be like in a hiding place and then shoot out and slice you up. And I think the like
Yeah.
unknown of it is what scared me so much. It's the same thing with Michael Myers. Like there was no way to fight off Michael Myers because like you could get away or beat him up or whatever and then turn around and then he's right there and he rips your face right off.
Yeah. The one I was scared of the most that I refused to watch when I was a kid that I actually love now as an adult and realize like it's literally like it's more funny than it is scary was Nightmare on Elm Street. Freddy freaked me out to no end. I couldn't look at him. I didn't like seeing anything remotely close. I remember going to like the video store and you got the scary section somewhere and all of them are lined up and just seeing that face on one of those movies would like it would I was done. Like I didn't want to watch the scary movie that night because of that. But like you said earlier, he talks, he's funny. I don't think I allowed myself to even give it a chance to be kind of enjoyable because just what he looked like freaked me out so bad, as a 9-year-old.
Yeah.
I wasn't really, Jason was very predictable. I thought, even as a kid, like you knew, like, okay, he's getting ready to bust through a wall or, come up from a mattress or whatever. Like he was always pretty easy. So he didn't bother me as much. One that I did not mention or I didn't think about literally until you were talking a few minutes ago. One that did scare me, Children of the Corn, because
Oh, I
I
never
feel
even
like
finished
that's
it.
almost one that was probably the most, if you're going to say any of them are realistic, because it was like, satanic ritual type stuff. And I've probably only watched one full one. But anytime you talk about like demonic stuff, like still to this day, I'm not a big fan of that kind of stuff. But that was a freaky movie. I remember one time I tricked a couple of my friends. So we grew up, my dad farmed when I was a kid, and obviously Halloween time, you got crop up and corn stalks and all that getting ready to be harvested. But there was a field behind our house that wasn't done yet. And one thing that happened on the movie was that sometimes when a kid would walk into the corn, he'd walk out and like his nose would be bleeding. And I did that one time, and I literally swore to them that it happened. I mean, I did it myself. I took something and, like, did that just to make it, for the effects. They're like, "No way, you did." I'm like, "I swear, I swear." And I think they believed me for a second before I told them I was making that up. But yeah, that was a I thought that was a pretty decent franchise. I mean, I thought it was scary. I mean, Stephen King, he was definitely good at with that kind of stuff,
Yeah,
obviously.
I never finished Children of the Corn or Pet Cemetery was equally scary to me, even though it was a made-for-TV movie. But I know we're close to the end of our time here, but I did wanna shout out a few movies that aren't well, so to me, Ghostbusters and Beetlejuice really epitomize the '80s. Like, they did bring in some jump scares and a few things that probably should have been a little bit scary, but they weren't really because they were comedies. But they still kinda revolved around the supernatural and ghosts and stuff like that, so I think they should get mentioned in a Halloween episode, especially since Ghostbusters was probably the most costumed movie, maybe besides Star Wars of any of all time. So Ghostbusters, Beetlejuice, and then I'll throw in my all-time favorite. It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. That's a big to us, that's a Halloween classic. We watch it every year.
Yeah.
So those 3 are staples in my family around this time of year for sure.
Yeah. I'll throw in kind of as we end here just a couple little things that were always enjoyable around that time. Fire is always awesome. I mean, I don't know many dudes that don't enjoy fire. So I can remember, just having a fire outside
It
to
should be
this day.
contained in some way.
It should be contained. Yeah, yeah. We can't act like that's not dangerous. So yes, make sure your fires are, safety first. We put tiki torches at the end of the drive to, like to let people, to show the kids like, hey, walk up this way, to this day. So that's something that we do. But yeah, just the nostalgic year after year, whether I'm now, almost 47 or back then as a 7-year old, just the smell in the air at night, the coolness of it, the leaves, the sound of the leaves, the walking in the leaves. There's just a lot of memories that come back this time of year that as a kid, I don't think I realized how awesome this time of year was. Because even today, as an adult, I love this time of year, and I feel like I like it more each year.
If you were raised in the '80s, yeah, the walking you mentioned the leaves, that just brought back so many memories of Southern Indiana. It's big, beautiful in the fall, walking through the leaves, and then seeing your buddies out walking around, like, trick-or-treating and, you know, like, cool costume, bro, whatever, but kinda that again, I've mentioned it, at least for me, in pretty much every episode, but the community aspect of this stuff, we lived in a neighborhood, we were very involved in each other's lives, and Halloween was kind of a time where you could where you emphasize that. Like, the parents would all be in, like, a group watching us as we all walked around, the moms would be out in the middle of the cul-de-sac, and then the dads would be giving out candy or vice versa while the kids walked around. And it was all just a part of, like, that connected feeling with that fall smell in the air and the leaves on the ground. I agree. It was a great time, and we hope that this episode, for those of you who lived it, reminded you of it, and then for those of you who didn't live it, it kinda took you back and let you know what it was like.
One last thing, we also know that at exactly uh, midnight, 11:59:59, the next second, it is officially Santa times. You could go from gore and
Christmas
guts and
season, yeah.
ghosts and demonic stuff and all the creepy stuff, and all of a sudden it's, happy elves and Santa and reindeer and candy canes, and so that officially transitions into the most wonderful time as the year, as they say. So, but yeah, it's been fun. Thank you, Rich, for being here as always on Lost in the '80s, and we appreciate everyone
We'll
watching or
see y'all
listening,
next time.
and we will catch you on the next episode. Lost in the '80s out.
Oh.